In this video, we'll be providing an overview on how you can change knowledge base of an element after the element has been created. There may come a time where you create an element and after it's been created, you realize that you actually want to change one of the knowledge bases that have been set. For instance, if we click on this RF machine housing, we may decide that we want to lower this acquisition category from a make to something like a modification average. While we can create a brand new element, it's always easier to change what's already been created. And there are two ways to do this. The first way is we can actually change it within this create/modify work window. If we look down at the lower right corner, you can see that there actually is a change button. When we select that, you'll notice that all the K bases are now unlocked and you can actually change all of these K bases. If we go down to acquisition category and we can select that modification average. Now be careful, because changing it within this create/modify work window is going to reload all the K bases, not just this modification average. So if you look over into this parameter area, you can see that we have made a number of adjustments to the parameters. We've adjusted things like the material composition, but in addition to that, we've also adjusted complexity of fabrication and labor intensity levels. If we select OK, you'll notice this warning window comes up telling you that all the K bases will be adjusted. If we hit yes, it will change the acquisition category, but it also resets all the parameters that you have adjusted. And so if you wanted those parameters to remain the same, you do not want to use this method. Instead, you're going to use the second method. And in the second method, you're going to go to the Work Elements tab, and you're going to go to this knowledge base section. Within here, you can see that there is this load individual knowledge base. And when you select on this, you can see that you're able to adjust the individual K bases. So if we look at this instrumentation panel, you can see again that there have been parameters that have been adjusted. And when we double click on this, you can see that the acquisition category is make. If we go back to this load individual knowledge base, we can go to the acquisition category and we can select modification average. Now, before we hit apply, we can look at this change area and we can decide whether or not we want this to affect the current element only, or if we want to affect multiple elements. We can also decide if we want this to change the knowledge base name and default value. And lastly, we can decide if we want to overwrite user enter parameters. So in this case, these parameters here are user entered. If we do not want those parameters, we can select this and it will overwrite it just like it had on the first one. But if we want to keep them, we can unselect it. And when we hit apply, you'll notice that these parameters have remained unchanged. But when we double click, you can see the acquisition category has dropped down to modification average. As I previously mentioned, one of the powerful things about using this load individual knowledge base is that you can change the K base across multiple elements. And so if we drop this platform to say space manned, when we select this multiple work elements and hit apply, this load individual knowledge base window will appear and it'll ask you which elements you would like to be affected by this change. You can choose the whole project by selecting the top rollup, or you can select individual rollups and their children, or you can select just a few. Once you hit apply, or once you hit OK, if we exit out, you can see things like data processor are still ground fixed. But if we go to the instrumentation panel, which is one of the ones that we had selected, you can see has changed to space manned. Similarly, the data processing chassis is also space manned. Now, the last thing that we'd like to highlight is the fact that when we double click on, say, converter and noise reduction and hit change, one of the K-bases that we can change is the application K-base. If we go to load individual knowledge K-base, you'll notice that the application is unable to be selected. And so if you are going to be changing the application, unfortunately, you will have to override everything. But if it's platform, acquisition, standard, or even the class, you can use this method to save your previous work. We hope you found this video helpful. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to the Galarath support team.